As we gather this afternoon, we're still in the earliest days of one of the most important technological revolutions in the history of the world. Around the globe, everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. I find that too artificial. I can't stand it. I don't even like the name. You know, I don't like anything that's artificial. So could we straighten that out, please? We should change the name. I actually mean that. I don't like the name artificial anything.
What the is this man saying? Call it American intelligence. You don't even need to change it. AI, American intelligence.
Whether we like it or not, we're suddenly engaged in a fast-paced competition to build and define this groundbreaking technology that will determine so much about the future of civilization itself because of the genius and creativity of Silicon Valley. And it is incredible genius. Without question, the most brilliant place anywhere on earth. America is the country that started the AI race.
It is pretty crazy to consider that all it took for these guys was also for like Mark Zuckerberg to go on Joe Rogan and be like, I hate trans people. And you can do whatever you want with our platform, sir. And a couple billion total dollars, okay, maybe a couple $100 million total dollars in campaign donations. And they went from using Silicon Valley as like the primary enemy to talking about how wonderful Silicon Valley tech CEOs are. The number one op for the Republicans in perpetuity was Silicon Valley tech CEOs, social media companies. And it wasn't that long ago. Like they kept running with that. And they were able to just like rebrand so fast. They were able to turn around and be like, nope, these guys are our beautiful, wonderful partners. They are so good, so good.
It's really been, so from this day forward, it'll be a policy of the United States to do whatever it takes to lead the world in artificial intelligence. Such an important thing happening. This is really something that nobody expected. It just popped out of the air, and here we are. But we will defend our nation, our values, our future, and our freedom, and it will be really great. But what we really need to be successful is a very simple phrase called common sense, and that begins with a common sense application of artificial and intellectual property rules. It's so important. You can't be expected to have a successful AI program when every single article, book, or anything else that you've read or studied, you're supposed to pay for. Gee, I read a book, I'm supposed to pay somebody. And, you know, we appreciate that, but you just can't do it because it's not doable. And if you're going to try and do that, you're not going to have a successful program. I think most of the people in the room know what I mean. When a person reads a book or an article, you've gained great knowledge. That does not mean that you're violating copyright laws or have to make deals with every content provider. And that's a big thing that you're working on right now, I know, but you just can't do it. China's not doing it, and if you're going to be beating China, and right now we're leading China very substantially.
He's anti-IP, let's go.
Very, very substantially. And
he's anti-IP.
Nobody's seen the amount of work that's going to be
goat.
Bursting up.
No more copyright. JD Pondon says
when it goes into
IP is no longer relevant. We must share information
machine
for universal prosperity.
But if you read an article and learn from it, we have to allow AI to use that pool of knowledge without
Except,
going
let's be
through
real.
the
He's just saying AI can steal everything. That's all he's saying. So they can make money off of it when they paywall that info later down the line.
Daunting power of AI is it's not going to be a reason for retreat from this new frontier. On the contrary, it is the more reason we must ensure it is pioneered first and best. We have to have the best, the first pioneer. We are the best and the first pioneers, and we're going to be really putting a nation that we love, America, we're going to be putting it first. I have an expression, America first, make America great again. A lot of great expressions, but they're all so true. To make America great again, we're going to make this industry absolutely the top, because right now it's a beautiful baby that's born. We have to grow that baby and let that baby thrive.
What the
We can't stop it. We can't stop it with politics. We can't stop it with foolish rules and even stupid rules. At the same time, we want to have rules, but they have to be smart. They have to be brilliant. They have to be more brilliant than even the technology itself. But here are the pillars of the strategy. First, my administration will use every tool at our disposal to ensure that the United States can build and maintain the largest, most powerful, and most advanced AI infrastructure anywhere on the planet. America needs new data centers, new semiconductor and chip manufacturing facilities, new power plants and transmission lines, and under my leadership, we're going to get that job done, and it's going to be done with certainty and with environmental protection and all of the things that we have to do to get it done properly. Virtually all of these large capital investments can be and should be made.
If a Democrat was pursuing this policy, Republicans will be up in arms with pitchforks, correctly identifying that AI is a tool of displacement of the existing labor pool. But because it's Donald Trump and Americans are dumber than ever before, they think this is going to yield bounties for them.
In May, I also signed an executive order to rapidly begin construction of safe, reliable nuclear reactors. That's a big thing now. Many of you are going to be using nuclear. You know, I had problems with nuclear. I saw some of the things, but what they've done with nuclear is like what you've done with AI and other things. It's incredible, actually. It's long-term. It's inexpensive. It's safe. What they've done is really amazing. So we opened up the industry, very strict rules, but we opened up the industry, and some of you are going to choose nuclear over oil and gas. Or
I'm going to keep it $1.50. I've always been like a little bit too fearful of nuclear energy, but the fact that Donald Trump is talking about nuclear in positive terms in a speech that is mostly dedicated to deregulation is terrifying. A bigger meltdown than Chernobyl. They're saying no nuclear meltdown has been as big. Biggest from the standpoint of radiation.
Under this order, Secretary Lutnick and Secretary Marco Rubio's doing a great job as Secretary of State, will work to rapidly expand American AI exports of all kinds, from chips to software to data storage of all kinds. And that's very important. That's going to give you the freedom to do what you want to do. And third, once and for all, we are getting rid of woke. Is that okay? Because I know you had to hire all woke people. I heard you had to hire all woke people under some of these things. But the American people do not want woke Marxist lunacy in the AI models, and neither do other countries. They don't want it. They don't want anything to do with it.
They want the AI to be able to say slurs. Every AI has to say that it's Mecha Hitler. Folks, there's this guy. He's on Twitter. His name is Will Stancil, folks. In order to make sure that all AI is not woke, we must ensure that it has vivid rape fantasies about Will Stancil. AI must call itself Mecha Hitler. I know you don't use AI, but this is very bad. Oh, I know. I think the fact that there are no safeguards around AI development is insane. It's completely insane. It's terrifying. Considering that every industry in the United States of America is predisposed, every industry's primary focus is the displacement of labor, because labor is the most malleable aspect of productive output. It's the one aspect that you have to eradicate costs at against all matter of retaliation. So they're going to put AI in charge of like medicine. They're just going to be like, there's no regulation. AI is actually better than humans at this stuff. They're going to start using AI in safety measures. Like, think about it this way. AI replacing teachers, AI replacing doctors, AI replacing medical regulation, pharmaceutical regulation. All of those things are going to be horrible. Think about how artificial intelligence is already utilized by the likes of former CEO Brian Thompson's United Healthcare. They were used specifically to deny people the coverage. FDA's artificial intelligence is supposed to revolutionize drug approvals. It's making up studies. There will be major backlash in healthcare and other industries. LLMs are not a replacement for highly skilled humans. Yeah, that's what you think. What you don't understand is this has nothing to do with making sure that people get the best possible service, and everything to do with making sure that we just eliminate labor. Capital owners want to eliminate labor and automate these processes to the best of their ability because AI is ultimately much, much cheaper. They want to cut costs Why is chat randomly siding with capitalists being rational actors or agreeing with capitalism in the history of capitalism or chat? No, I don't think anyone is. I think that artificial intelligence can have uses, like good uses. It can be either used as a mechanism to displace or lower the burdens that the pre-existing labor pool has, or it can be used as a way to displace the existing labor force in its entirety. Under the rules of capitalism, it will be used as a mechanism to displace the labor pool in its entirety. And it doesn't matter if the services that it delivers is worse off than an actual human being. It's that simple. Like, look, human cultural replacement, not just AI music, but AI listeners too, a fake and fraudulent way for Spotify to generate ad revenue. Who needs humans when bots can click on links and trick advertising into paying for fake engagement? Spotify has an AI music problem, but bots love it. Fake listeners are flocking to AI-made songs on streaming platforms, taking much needed money away from human artists. Think about it this way. This thing in my hand and in all of your hands has more processing power than my first ever computer by by magnitudes. I had a Pentium, I think it was like i4 or something, or Pentium 3, I don't know, whatever. It was nothing in comparison to this thing that I have in my hand. Do you think I'm against technological innovation? Of course not. I'm not against technological innovation at all, because this thing has had many downsides, but also tremendous benefit as well. The problem is that has created an environment where people work 24/7, for example. Accessibility to the internet and technological innovation in that regard has only increased the burden that a singular person has in the workplace, because and companies that are aware of this, capital owners that are aware of this, have used that to limit the number of employees, to lower the number of employees, because now one person can do the job of 10 and in a much shorter period of time. So labor has become more productive than ever before, whereas wages have remained stagnant. Wages have not adjusted to the productivity of the average laborer. Average wages have remained low, whereas average productivity has gone up a fuck ton. So the problem is not the technological innovation itself. The problem is what capital owners use said technological innovation to do. This is the issue. And you have the likes of Sam Altman openly talking about it, saying there are cases where entire classes of jobs will go away, like all throughout history. We have these new technologies come along and people say this is the end of work, this is the end of jobs. It turns out people seem to want unlimited stuff.
There are entirely new classes of jobs that will come. And largely, I think this will look somewhat like most of history, in that the tools people have to use their jobs will let them do more, achieve things in new ways. What it means to be a doctor or a lawyer or a computer programmer clearly will change, but people will still need medical care and they want to talk to a human. People still need legal advice and they'll want someone that they can trust to be on their side. People will still want computers to do things for them. But the amount that one person can do, and also the amount that we expect out of one person, will be incredible. Like all throughout history, we have these new technologies come along and people say, this is the end of work, this is the end of jobs. It turns out people seem to want unlimited stuff, have a huge desire to express their creativity and be useful to people. And I'm still waiting for that promise from the Industrial Revolution that we only had to work 4 hours a week and got to, play on the beach and hang out with our...
We could do that. Like, that's something that is within our current present technological... It's not limited. Like, we could technically do that. And we would have a much higher percentage of people that have well-paying jobs with decent benefits and decent compensation. The only thing that stops this is the way that profits are distributed as it stands. The limited means that the average laborer has to take control over their own lives, to take control over what they can and can't do in their own workplace. It is because of capitalism that we have not gotten to a 4-hour work week. That's it. Just like AI is also not going to lead to a 4-hour work week. It's not going to lead to that at all. Because if all of the exponential growth of technology over the course of the past couple of decades has not led to a diminished or a 4-day work week, not even a 4-hour work week, which we could literally do for a 4-day work week at this point. Right now, as it stands, we could do far less work, far less labor, and keep productivity relatively high. You're so out of touch of the everyday normal person, bruh, what are you saying? Maybe you can, millionaire, 4-hour work week. Dude, you are a fucking peasant. I need you to understand something. You are a fucking peasant. yes, the argument I'm making is that if, for example, let's talk about one job that requires direct labor, menial labor, okay? Route tasks, an Amazon distribution facility worker. I'm going to use the worst possible job that should destroy my argument, right? If Amazon were to hire far more workers to accomplish the same amount of tasks instead of forcing one person to do the task and keep prices fairly high for that labor, people could absolutely work much lower hours. So yes, it is not that I am out of touch. It's that you have no capacity to dream. You have no understanding of how these things work. Yelling doesn't make you right. I'm not yelling. This is my normal tone of voice. I'm currently speaking in my own living room from my own house. You're watching me. Just think for a moment. The only reason why we don't have 4 days of work only, for example, or even something lower than that, is simply because as productivity is increased, where one person can do the work of 10 now, we have not lowered the amount of hours required. And instead, we've actually eliminated people from the workforce slowly but surely. That's it. And you don't actually recognize that partially because obviously population keeps growing. The population keeps growing. So you don't actually think that there is like less laborers overall. When I say a 4-hour work day for 4 days a week, let's say, I don't mean that you also get paid minimum wage for those 4 hours. I mean, you get paid the same because your pay structure is adjusted to your productivity, is adjusted to your output. But under capitalism, it is not adjusted to your productivity or your output, and it's entirely adjusted to how much your bosses can get away with not paying you. That's it. And by the way, this is not a value judgment. This is just how things are. When I say, under our current organization of the economy, your interest as a worker, as a wage laborer, is to work as little as possible and get the most amount of pay. And your boss's interests are to make you work as many hours as possible for the least amount of pay that they can get away with. That's just objective reality. Like what I'm describing here, there's no value judgment associated with this. I'm not saying something is moral or immoral. I'm just telling you exactly what it is, right? In the simplest ways possible. If that incentive structure exists, if that interest structure exists for your bosses versus yourself, who do you think wins out at the end of the day? Your bosses do. They win that battle every single time. And when you expand on this principle, you realize that throughout technological innovation, throughout the exponential growth of technology, there have been a million different opportunities for you to work less hours and keep the same output, if not a higher output, because you're more productive. And yet, in that process, your bosses have decided, oh, now we can make one guy do the work of 10. So let's just fire these 9 other guys. And then the one guy that remains in that position is even more terrified of losing their job. It's that simple. And it's so much more dangerous than just labor laws. I have direct knowledge. Trump's statements against woke AI are not just about grok. It's already being used at the FDA to select biased data from clinical trials in order to whitewash drug development and clinical trial findings. This seems small until certain populations are left behind or are more urgently harmed now. Chatter does not understand the point. What you're trying to say is that if there's 100 Amazon packages, yet there's only one person transporting them, and it takes them 8 hours to transport them. But if there's 10 people, everyone gets to go home early. Exactly. Das Kapital Volume 1, drive down the price of labor, increase proportion of labor time that goes to the employer, drive up the rate of exploitation. Surplus labor value that you can farm off of an individual laborer increases, and that is what Marxists would call exploitation. That is what a capitalist would call profit. Once again, no value judgment associated with this at all. This is just simply what is going on. It is just descriptive. That's all this is. The reason why a lot of people actually feel a sense of repulsion when they hear this and assume immediately that you're being woke or gay or Marxist or whatever the fuck and all of the other negative values associated with that is because they also understand that this is an unfair process. They recognize that it's an unfair process. Because they recognize there's still a nugget of class consciousness within every single person. So they realize oh, wait a minute, I'm getting over. And in that moment, you have two options. You either lean into this and you investigate further, or you shut it out. You shut your mind off to this reality and try to think of reasons as to why the person telling you this reality is actually in the wrong, and that the system might be not the best for you, but ultimately the alternatives are far scarier. And AI will destroy this. AI will destroy what remains of the existing labor force. It will make things much worse. And I'm not the only one who has recognized this reality. I mean, think about Andrew Yang. One of the best things that Andrew Yang consistently talked about was what like automation will do to truck drivers. Everybody loved it when he talked about that. Everybody thought, oh, how brilliant. Andrew Yang is right. God, he is so prophetic. But when I say it, you go, wait a minute. What the fuck you mean? You're saying it locally. Does this get enacted by regulating profits or what? How do you force this? I mean, the only way to counter this is by instilling class consciousness amongst the laboring class, and also get them to demand a higher chunk of the surplus labor value that they are creating, initially by way of the labor unions that have the capacity to engage in sectoral bargaining, and then ultimately by way of changing the economic organization of society. How is anybody supposed to do anything when there are no jobs? I mean, there's always going to be some semblance of slave labor. Don't worry, chatter. I mean, look around. You can basically have a human serf deliver shit to your house with regular frequency. I myself even use Uber Eats and things of that nature. Now, I max out on the fucking tips in the process, but not everyone is doing the same thing. But ultimately, that's what it is. There will always be some kind of menial task that you can give to the plebs for a much smaller, for much worse wages under much worse conditions. You could have just said there will always be jobs. Yes, but there will always be increasingly worse jobs is my point. Because power does not concede without force. It never yields without a demand, and it never concedes without force behind said demand. And when there are only gig economy jobs available, and people have fallen for the notion that this actually offers you some kind of liberty rather than a trick to completely eradicate what remains of your bargaining power, before you realize it, you're working a shitty job, sometimes 2 at a time, and you're making less than someone else would have in your situation a decade prior. And you don't have the benefits either. Is the Deliveroo driver now operating from a tent under the Westway overpass? Yeah, what? This guy seems genuinely surprised that a large number of homeless people are in work. How is that surprising? Yes, they still work. Of course they still work. It's just they don't have a house because they can't afford one.